it's the end of the semester. You typically don't want to leave your Netflix tape. But I really appreciate you guys coming. It's good to get to see you guys one more time before the break starts. Well, tonight I'm going to be talking on something that everybody in this room can relate to, because it's something that really a lot of people apply to this age group. But really, when thinking about it and also seeing kind of how my life has gone since graduation, I've realized it's something that relates to everybody, period. No matter where you are, what you're doing, it relates. And that thing is transition. So it's rough. And it starts from very early on. In the very beginning, when you're a baby, you're transitioning from being a laying there baby that doesn't really do much to a wiggler to eventually a turner over to a crawler to a walker. You're always transitioning into something. And a lot of times when people look at when you're in school, there's a thought of, when I get to this thing, it's over with. I will reach it. It's here, when I get to this point, it's going to be there. This is what I wanted. And it's going to be happily ever after, like a Disney movie. For some people, it's getting your degree. For some people, it's getting married. A lot of girls, especially. We sing the Disney songs and sing along. And we're like, yes, I see the light. I want to see the light. There's lots of blushing going on. It's okay. Own up to it. I own up to it. I cry when I'm singing. I do it too. It's fine. I'm sure some of the guys do it too in their own way. So that is not going to be repeated, and that's being recorded too. So Galen's recording it, so you can just go back and watch that. So your face is going to embarrass me later. But no. So there's always that thing though. But ultimately, it's really easy to forget though that we're always transitioning. And really, there's just a time for everything. If you have your Bibles, your tablets, your phablets, whatever you're using, you want to turn to Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. There's a whole passage about changing and seasons and things happening. always the case, but you're a senior, you're a big man, you're pretty smart, you've got your niche, you've got your friend group, you've got, for me it was like my theater family, I had my church family, I had this and I had that. And so even though I was like filling out these applications for college and all this stuff, I'm like, whatever, I'm good. And then freshman year started, and I heard a laugh. And suddenly you come on this campus, especially if you're from like a smaller school, and you're like, I'm in a completely other city. Where do I go to the bathroom? Is there a bathroom? Where do I go eat? What do I eat? What am I allowed to eat? Wait a minute. Oh, I have to actually keep track of diamond dollars and stuff. I can't just use a meal ticket like in high school. Oh wait, I have to learn about budgeting now. Ooh, I have to actually study. I have to actually do these things. So, freshman year, you find yourself pretty painfully disoriented. And I know I did. I came to UT, I was a commuter student, so it was a little bit more disorienting because I had to also deal with parking. Does anybody else have to commute? Who can say that's very painfully disorienting no matter how old you are? Okay?
Even non-commuters.
Yeah, even non-commuters is really painful, but like every day, like I would have to tack on an extra hour of time just for driving to campus and then driving around in circles, trying and hoping and praying I can find a spot. It's amazing how many tickets you can accumulate as a commuter student. But you're very painfully disoriented. And then on top of that too, every semester stuff changes. Whether it be the construction, whether that be your classes, whether that be your major, it's pretty painfully disorienting. And it's very, very lengthy. It pretty much lasts until you're a senior. Am I right?
Yes.
Until about the time you declare your major, if you declare it by then. It took me a while to declare my major, so I can say that. And you don't have stuff figured out. You're still trying to figure out who your guidance counselor is sometimes.
Amen.
Right? I literally, when I was an undergrad, did not have a set counselor until I think my last year of college. I met with a different person every single semester. So it was very confusing and scary, and very scary not to have a set plan of how I was going to even graduate. It was literally a miracle that I graduated on time. My vice counselor person looked at it and went, oh, you can graduate on time. Did you know that? And I went, what? So, because I was kind of picking classes at random by myself. I didn't really have much help. So, you have all that going on and all this stuff. And then you get to senior year again. And you kind of find yourself surprisingly oriented. You're, for those of us that are, older in Chi Alpha, you have your Chi Alpha family. You have all these awesome people that you have this great relationship with. You have these awesome roommates. And you've grown to love them so much. You can't imagine life without them and all these things. You got your grades figured out. You got all these plans figured out. You think you know what you're doing after graduation. Yeah, see guys. But you think you got this set plan and you feel really, really calm and good about stuff. But guess what, guys? You get the diploma and walk across the stage and it starts all over again. I hate to burst your bubble, but it starts all over again. Jamie, I'm sure, is experiencing this since he's getting ready to walk across the stage. You're in all sorts of transitions and stages all at the same time. It's pretty daunting. But we're not alone in it, guys. And that's the really important thing to remember and to really cling to and hold tightly, God, no matter where we are in the transition phases. Whether we are severely oriented, what's really easy to be like, yes, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. It's really easy when we're feeling really secure and oriented. It feels really easy to be confident and all that stuff when we're the big guys on campus. knew about the people that we'd lose along the way. He knew about the feelings of loneliness that are going to come with different things, with different decisions. He knew, but that's why he says, come to me, all that you are weary. That's why he says, come to me, I will make your burden light. I will make your yoke light. He will equalize that weight. That's why he does it. So things to remember. And by the way, a really good example to look at, because I'm going to try to keep this brief, like I was trying to say earlier. To look at an example, if you ever feel really discouraged and want to look at a really good example of someone that was in a really long, lengthy period of disorientation, look up Joseph. How many have heard of Joseph and the amazing code? The technical dream code? Yeah, that's what it's called. I was like, gosh, that word, it's gone. So yeah, everybody knows about that musical typically. But of course, those of us that know the Bible know that that's based off of Joseph and his coat of many colors in the Bible. And in Genesis 37, 3 through 11, it talks about, it kind of gives the beginnings of what was going on with Joseph, which I'll very briefly read because he knows what's up. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day Jacob had a very special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly my bundle stood up and your bundles all gathered around and bowed before mine. His brothers responded, so you think you'll be our king, do you? Do you actually think he will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I have another dream. The sun and moon and 11 stars bow low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well, as his brothers. But his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that, he asked. Will your mother and I, as well as your brothers, actually come and bow on the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. So, like us, that come up into college with all these aspirations, Joseph gets all these awesome dreams. He's like, I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to be doing that. But he's met with a lot of opposition. And if you read on through Genesis, you read that it's a long time of opposition. And it just gets worse. It's not just mom and dad saying, I don't like your idea for what for you, I guess, is a major, how we relate to it. It's not just that. It becomes him being sold into slavery. He goes and has to be somebody's slave in a completely other country with nobody he knows for a while. And then when he finally starts getting stuff good, he gets knocked back down and thrown into jail for something he didn't even do. And all these things. And for years and years and years, stuff is awkward. Stuff is painful. Stuff through God sucks. But what I noticed though when I read that though is Joseph didn't get bitter. Even though, to be honest, I felt like I would be very bitter. His whole family turned against him. You know, he finally gets a good job, and he gets promoted up pretty high. He gets it all taken away from him, and he didn't deserve it. And he ends up in jail for something that he didn't do, and in fact, was said, I ain't going to do this, this isn't right. He got thrown in jail anyway. But in all that, he clung to the Lord. And he relied on him. And he waited. And he took that time. And instead of using it in a time to stew in bitterness about what was handed to him, he took that time in preparation. And in that moment when he was needed, he was able to rise to the occasion. So guys, I guess the bottom line of what I want to leave you with is, in these times where it is rough, like finals, like with picking your major, like, praise Jesus, hallelujah, like when there's a bad breakup, or like in my case, when get it set in my mind with the decision that I know He's there, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get through this and keep going. Because this is going to suck now, but I'm going to come out of it knowing better, and I'm going to be even more ready the next time something happens that maybe doesn't go my way in the way that I envisioned my Disney ending going. I'm going to be ready. Because for Joseph, he was ready to interpret a dream for a king. And as a result of him being prepared and being close to the Lord and knowing His thoughts and knowing His desires, he's able to interpret that and not only save Egypt from a big time of famine, but his own family. So backing up to me, a month before graduation, all my plans fell through. I had no job. I had no plan. I had no idea where I was going. Wasn't dating anybody, so marriage wasn't an option and being supported by somebody. So, like my grandfather told me I should be. But no, I had nothing. So I was like, God, I don't know what to do. But I was like, okay, being bitter doesn't work. We've tried this route before, back in the past. You know my story. There it is. But if not, just talk to me and I'll tell you about it quietly one day. It's a long story. It's like, this doesn't work. So I was like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing the best I can with my classes. I'm going to go to every single job fair I can find. I'm going to send out my application everywhere. I'm going to send my resume even to places that I am not qualified for, because maybe somebody will listen. Maybe somebody will say something. Maybe some random connection will pop up. So I did for a good month. Solid, kept going. And the week of graduation, it was the day of graduation practice, so Thursday. I still have nothing. And I noticed an email in my inbox from the UTK email from Career Services saying, hey, this hospital is having a job fair. Check it out, psych majors. And I'm like, okay, it's just a job fair, and it's way out in Louisville, Tennessee, but why not? So I dressed up with what I was going to wear, what would be kind of appropriate, I guess, and look nice. Thankfully, it was interview appropriate, it turned out, because I needed that. And what was going to be nice also is graduation practice. And I popped in my car and drove down there. Well, I drove down there expecting, a bunch of booths like we get down here for the job fair, and it's a straight up interview. So, luckily I had my resumes ready, because I was prepared. And in that time where I didn't know what I was doing, I made a full-blown resume. I pumped it up the best I could, had people look at it. I had my pastor's wife who's doing what I want to do, look at it and give me advice on it. I had to ask everybody advice what to do. And so I came in, and when I found out it was an interview, I was just like, help. Because I had no idea what they were going to ask. I had no clue what was going on. I didn't even know what positions they were offering. Literally no clue. So I sat down, and the lady was like, so I see you worked at Food City and did 5 years of customer service. How did you resolve conflict? So some of y'all have heard my Food City stories, so I just rattle off a few of those, and she seemed really interested, and I was kind of surprised, and we chatted for a bit. It was really fun. I was kind of surprised I didn't think interviews would be fun. And then she was like, okay, well, we might call you. Okay, whatever. So I was like, okay, didn't think anything of it, because I realized I was like, now we're in graduation practice. I jumped in my car and drove down to graduation practice. The next day I graduated, and I was like, I'm just going to not think about it. I'm not going to be stressed today. This is time to celebrate with my family and my friends. Tori came starting pay, is that okay? You want to start like at the end of the month? I was like, whoa, what? So I mean, of course I'm like, I have no job. So I'm like, yes, I accept. I don't care what it is, I'll accept. And I was really excited. And I ended up being able to call my manager and work things around the plans I had for the summer. So I got to go on a cruise with my family because they had gotten me that for graduation present and LASIK and some other stuff. And things seemed to be going great. The only problem was I was scheduled for night shift. Ew. And that was going to stink because I'm a morning person. You guys might not know that because sometimes schedules will mess with it, but I'm a morning person. So I was like, crap. Well, maybe if I work really hard, they'll notice, they'll see how awesome I am, and they'll move me to day shift. Because that's when they actually do therapy groups and stuff like that. And I really like doing stuff like that. And that's more up my alley of what I want to do, so I want to go into counseling. So I was like, okay, that's what I'll do. So I don't even finish orientation, and my manager approaches me and asks me if I want to go to days. I'm like, oh my gosh, all these doors are opening. This is incredible. And these people that were high up were talking about how awesome I was and how they were impressed with all my stuff on my resume and all these things. And I'm like, this is so exciting. I can't believe everything just seems to be going my way, and I just don't expect this. And I go through my first month, and it was the best month ever. I love my job. Love it, love it, love it. I got to do all these therapy groups and all these things. Alpha was getting ready to start for the year. I was so excited. And then the week that you guys were moving back into your dorms, right before leadership got together to start doing stuff, my manager pulls me to the side. And she's like, hey Rachel, I need to ask you a favor. And I'm like, okay, what's up? We're moving you to nights. I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, you need to be ready by Friday. It was Wednesday. I literally had to leave before because I bawled. Because one, that's like a very big change in sleep very quickly. And two, I felt like I'd gotten all this stuff and was really excited. And was really excited about Chi Alpha. And it all just got swept out from underneath me. And like a coworker came and checked on me that I kind of bonded with. And he was just like, it's okay. And I'm just like,